How to respond when an employee tells you they have autism or ADHD. Hi, I'm Brett, the AuDHD Boss. On this channel, we talk about ADHD and autism in the workplace. I'm Brett. I'm an autistic manager with ADHD, and I have over 12 years of leadership experience and training. A lot of things I've covered have been from the perspective of how to be an employee working in a workplace and talking to a manager, talking to colleagues, or trying to sort of manage with their autism or ADHD in the workplace and taking a strength-based approach for that. But in this video, I'd like to take it from the perspective of the manager and sort of make a video for other managers about how we should respond and how we should not respond when an employee comes to us to tell us that they have ADHD or autism. But if you're someone who finds yourself unaware of the differences about ADHD or autism or how they can show up in the workplace or any of those other things, check out some of the other videos on my channel where you can find out more about that information. If you're looking to learn more about the definition of ADHD or what autism is, check out some of the other videos on my channel, in particular to how to understand how executive function shows up in the workplace. That's particularly important. You can check that out here. But on this, we're going to talk about the conversation, the actual dialogue, and how to be a supportive manager and make sure that this conversation goes the way we want it to, so that both we're helping our employee and we're also not creating an awkward situation. Now, first and foremost, autism and ADHD are protected in the United States under the Americans with Disabilities Act, so they are considered disabilities, which means we cannot formally ask if someone has ADHD or autism. But if an employee chooses to share with us that they have ADHD or autism, we should first pause and reflect and thank them for sharing that with us, in particular, because that's a very difficult thing to share. It takes a lot of nerves. It takes a lot of courage to share with your boss if you have ADHD or autism in the workplace. For many people, it's really scary to have to confide such a deeply personal thing. And in many cases and in many situations, when we go to share with our boss that we have ADHD or autism, it's because we're looking for help, or it's because we've tried different strategies and now we're at a place where we're looking for help, or we may be asking for an accommodation. Oftentimes, if we're sharing this, it's because we're hoping that you can help us. So we want to respond in a helpful manner. So the first thing I would recommend is, instead of thinking about anyone else or anything you've heard or known about ADHD or autism, you want to center the person that's in front of you. You want to focus on the person that is talking to you. Ask them what they need. Ask them how you can be of help. How can you help them in this moment? How can you help them in their role? How can we help give them what they need to be successful in their job so that your relationship is successful and the work that you do is successful? If we take up a strategy of how to make this conversation work from a place of success and strength, this will be a lot less tense for the person sharing that information with you. ADHD and autism can present in a variety of different ways for every individual who is on the neurodiversity spectrum. There's a famous saying from the autistic perspective, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And the same can kind of be said for somebody with ADHD as well. There are three different types of ADHD. There's inattentive, attentive, and the combined type. It can show up differently for a variety of different people. I was just recently in a meeting with a bunch of different people who all are out about their ADHD, and we each work vastly differently from one another. It shows up very, very differently. We each have different strengths. We have different weaknesses, but together, our strengths combined, we make a pretty powerful team when we're putting our heads together. It's entirely possible that if you have previous knowledge or understanding, or you've met with somebody before, that's that person's version of ADHD. It may not be the person who's in front of you. So you want to enter that conversation with curiosity. You want to enter that conversation trying to better understand what this individual, their strengths are, and what they're asking for support, and how can that support come through. If you'd like to learn more about how to create a supportive workplace or create what are reasonable accommodations, I always recommend the website AskJan.org. That is the Job Accommodations Network, and that organization lists on their website how to create accommodations, reasonable accommodations for people with autism or ADHD. I would also strongly recommend withholding any judgment. If this is an employee who you've had a problem with or has had any sort of trouble getting their work done or meeting demands or deadlines or being to work on time or anything like that, those are all signs of executive function or traits of executive function. So I would withhold judgment or bringing up any of those things. But if the person wants to talk about how they've struggled with those things, again, I would strongly recommend what strategies, what techniques, what things can we come up with? What would work best for you that we can make those things work for you so that you are a more effective employee so that we're working towards your strengths. And then as best you can, try to educate yourself about what ADHD and autism is. But again, bring that back to the person, like understanding different things about executive function, understanding different things about different brain types, understanding that ADHD and autism are just differently wired brains. And therefore, there are big picture things that are good to know about ADHD or autism, but how it can show up in every one of us is going to be different. So if we ask the individual how they need different things, that's going to allow us to have a better dialogue with our employee. On this part of the video, I'm going to go over some common things that are negative that are often said to people with ADHD. If any of these things are things that you're thinking about saying or have said in the past, I would strongly encourage you, do not say these things. Don't say these things. These are phrases that are absolutely not helpful, but I'm bringing them up in the context of understanding. I'm going to explain why some of these things are not helpful, and I'm going to explain why some of these really just are not useful in conversations or dialogue with people with ADHD or autism. So if you are somebody with ADHD or autism, some of these phrases might be really upsetting. Many of us with ADHD have something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, a huge amount of rejection coming off of somebody when we hear certain phrases, certain things, or we're in certain situations. So it's important to be thoughtful in how we respond so that we're being careful with our word choices and things like that, which we always should be in the workplace regardless. Asking someone to prove they have ADHD or autism or telling them it's not real does not really help. It is real. It very much is real. It's very much covered by the ADA and is very much recognized. Asking someone to prove it is simply just wrong and not necessary. If they are asking for formal accommodations, you need to check with HR, redirect them to HR where you have to go through your company's process, whatever that process is to get a formal accommodation. May involve a doctor's note. I don't know. It's going to be different for every company. Every policy is going to be different, but more often than not, that's HR's function and not yours as a direct supervisor. Referring to ADHD as not real or not a thing, well, that's just wrong. And that's a myth. It's real. It very much is a thing. You're just being lazy and it's an excuse. Again, it's not being lazy and it's not an excuse. It's a different brain function. It's a different brain type, which means for a lot of us, we just need a different way in to approach a project or a concept or an idea or a task. And if we can work together to figure out the way in for our different brain types, then we can get that work done faster and more efficiently and possibly even better than somebody else. Everyone's a little ADHD or autistic. No. Have you tried trying harder? Trying harder is something we have probably beaten ourselves up for, trying and still hitting a struggle or a barrier or a wall. And just being told to try harder doesn't help. Believe me when I say we probably have tried harder. And the reason why we're having this conversation right now, if I'm your employee, is because I am absolutely exhausted from trying harder. And I figured out no other way forward other than to come to you asking for help. And this is me trying harder by coming to you asking for help. That just doesn't help and it feels really dismissive. Have you tried making a to-do list? Again, feels a little dismissive. And again, we probably have. But what happens is that it can be really overwhelming to make a to-do list, to figure out what we call task initiation, where to start, how to start, where do we prioritize. And one of the things we can do in this relationship is if we make that to-do list together and you help me prioritize where I need to start something or help me find that thing that is both something that I'm really interested in doing or I really want to do and it's a priority for the job and for the work, that's going to help me excel in my job. You just need motivation. I hate this one because we can have motivation and then all of a sudden like that, it's gone. And it's just how the brain works. That's how executive function works. So again, check out my video on executive function. Now, these are a combination of different things that are just frankly hurtful when you hear somebody say this to you. Clearly, you just don't care. You never see anything through. You just don't like to work or just get it done or just do it. All of those things basically imply that we're not trying hard, that we haven't thought this through, that we're not struggling, that we're not having a hard time. Our brain works against us a lot of times with ADHD, and we're trying to figure out strategies and routines to work with our brain and not against our brain. Phrases like this really will set off our rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and they're not going to help us become a more productive employee. Refrain from using any phrases like that because frankly, they're just going to slow it down. They're going to make a more hurtful and hard relationship for us to talk about this. And frankly, we're probably not going to talk to you about these things again if these are the ways that you're responding or these are the ways you're thinking. It's a different neurotype and simply we just need more support or a different way in. And when we make these accommodations, oftentimes these are early accommodations that once they're done, we become much more productive employees. The relationship becomes much easier. We become more productive. When we make accommodations for one person, it makes the whole workplace better for everybody. Oh, but you're so smart. You're so intelligent. You have your act together. I don't understand. Having ADHD or autism is not relevant or a sign of intelligence or lack of intelligence or anything thereof. That is a myth, and one has nothing to do with the other. You can have incredibly brilliant, smart, brilliant people who have ADHD and autism, or both, or individually. Those two things simply do not go together, and it is incredibly offensive and incredibly rude to imply that someone with ADHD or autism is not smart, is lazy, or is not intelligent. It's just rude, and it's just wrong. Don't do that. You don't look autistic. Here again, that's a myth. There is no one way to look or be autistic, and to say things like that is frankly rude and offensive and is not relevant to a conversation at work. It's just an excuse, and not everything is about your ADHD or autism. Well, it's not just an excuse, and most of the time it really is all about my ADHD or autism. I have this conversation with a lot of people, not just at work, but in my personal life as well. The thing is, ADHD and autism, especially as a late diagnosed individual, when you start connecting all the dots and comorbidities about anxiety, OCD, health issues, health differentiation things, other things in the neurodiversity spectrum, a lot of it is about ADHD or autism. A lot of it is about where those things are centered and how all these other things interact with ADHD or autism. So when we just ignore those other things, it makes it harder to work through a lot of those other things. And again, I'm not a medical professional. Again, I would stress the work of Dr. Megan Anna Nuff at Neurodivergent Insights, where there's a lot of explanation and Venn diagrams and all these explanations about how there are comorbidities and how everything kind of works together with ADHD and autism at the center. And finally, the worst, it's just an excuse. No, it's not. If I've decided to have this conversation with you, again, it's because I'm struggling, I've been having a hard time, and I need your help. And if I'm coming to you to talk about this, it's because I've thought really long and really hard, and I've struggled, and I've debated with myself how much of this I want to share. I'm sharing this with you because I want to share it with you, or I need your help. Now, everybody's reasons are going to be completely different, and the most important thing to stress, even as everything I've talked about in this video, we're not a monolith. Again, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, and likewise with ADHD. So it's important to understand what each individual person's needs are, what their strengths are, and what you can do together in their relationship, in their working relationship. I'm a really big fan of the phrase, how can I be here for you in this moment? And that is really helpful when someone's sharing or disclosing with you, or really in any difficult moment that could be presented. Some people might say, well, I just need you to know because I'm figuring this out. Some people might say, I need an accommodation. Some people might say, well, I'd like to try a few things differently if you're open to that, so that I don't have to ask for a formal accommodation. But everybody's reason is going to be different. We need to pause and we need to listen, comprehend, and go through what those things are so that we can best figure out how we can react. And if necessary, take time to say, you know what, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. I'm going to take some time to think about this. How comfortable do you feel talking to me about your experience? How comfortable do you feel about educating me, or are there resources that you could share with me that I could better educate myself? Or I'm going to go look at some more education on that so that I can come back and help you. I may come back to you with follow-up questions or ideas or strategies. Would that be helpful for you? Would it be helpful if we work together on strategies or ideas or things that can help you here at work? Those are the kind of conversations we want to be having. And it will take a little bit of time and education if you don't previously know those things, but that's okay. I hope that's been of use. Please check out some of the other videos here on my channel where you can get more resources like this, whether you're a manager or you're an employee. Again, I'm Brett, the AuDHD Boss, and be sure to like and subscribe and check out more videos on my channel. If you have a question or a comment or a video you'd like to see me create or discuss, let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to respond. I'm very responsive in the comments. And if you do go to neurodivergentinsights.com, you can use the code AuDHDBoss for any of Dr. Nuff's paid resources. You can get a small discount on some of the resources on Dr. Nuff's website. Be sure to check out the many resources on their website and just all the different ways that you can get more support there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And be sure to check out some of the other work that I'm doing on my YouTube channel or on my podcast if you prefer to listen. Thanks for watching.